Hey there, how's it going? I'm OG Junkyard. Today we're going to be talking about starting your first challenge run or no hit run, in this case, is what I'm going to be talking about for here. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how I got started with no hit, kind of the steps that I went through in regards to my first playthrough of Dark Souls ever, to landing a no hit 80% run and working on other challenge runs after that, and kind of how my approach has changed, how it's evolved. And ultimately, at the end of this video, I want to give you the skills you need to start embarking on your own challenge run, whether that's a soul level 1 run or a deathless run or a challenge run, things like that, or a no hit run, something like that. This will be more geared towards the deathless or no hit type of runs where you're trying to make it through all the way through a game, meeting a certain objective. Whereas like a soul level 1 playthrough is a little bit different. But we'll still talk about that and kind of how that differs from the challenge runs, like the deathless runs and no hit runs that I personally come to love. This will be a series of videos talking specifically about how to no hit Dark Souls, but this first video is more like of an introductory thing to knock off, to kind of like encapsulate the overall objectives we're trying to accomplish in the videos, and also to talk about some things that you can do to start off with to help your no hit run or deathless runs out, things like that. I've got my dishwasher in the background, so I keep hearing it, and I'm like, oh, do you hear it? I don't think it's actually coming through, but whatever. So to get started, whenever we talk about like a no-hit run, and because this is going to be a no-hit series of videos, a no-hit guide broken down, one of the things that we're absolutely going to always do is we're going to start off by playing offline. You always want to make sure you're playing Dark Souls 1 offline. It's less of an issue in Dark Souls 1, but in Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, you will absolutely get invaded, which will add a ton of risk to your run. And so that's like one of the very, very first things to do. Regardless of whatever class you play as, however you end up doing it. But you just want to make sure that you're set as offline. And then you want to make sure, like if you look right above me at the top left, you want to make sure that that says offline, not online. If it does say online, log out. Start the game in offline mode. Now, I've deleted all my saves, so we can actually, kind of talk about this run at length. My overall goal discussing this is going to be kind of telling you some tools that you'll be using, some things that I found very, very helpful in regards to improving my runs, bring my hit count down, bring my death counts down, and ultimately kind of what a challenge run like a no hit or deathless run ends up looking like. So we're just gonna go through a couple of starting scenes. This is like if you've never played the game before, which I imagine basically everyone who's watched this video has played this game and is quite familiar with it. I'm gonna start off by we're gonna go ahead and pick the thief class. This is gonna be this first bit is gonna be like a thief walkthrough, but I also want to discuss good guide. There we go. We don't care about the sex of the character. We care about the class because our different classes are going to impact the way we play the run. In this case, most of this video is going to be a thief guide, but I'm going to talk about different ways to tackle different sections depending on like what type of class you're playing, things like that. In this case, like your starting item is going to be really, really important. Basically every class except for the thief will need to pick the master key. It allows you to go to more areas at the start of the game, and you're not locked into the standard playthrough where you've got to go through Undead Burg and kill a Taurus demon and go into the depths and yada yada yada, and end up having to fight all these extra bosses. So basically, if you're playing anything other than a thief, your starting item or your gift item is going to be a master key. The next piece will be the physique. Doesn't matter. The face doesn't matter. The hair doesn't matter. The color doesn't matter. At that point, you can start in the game and you can kick it off. We're going to go ahead and skip all of the cinematics and just jump right into it. All right, so we've just started in Undead Asylum. Basically start off, and what a no-hit run is going to look like, you're going to basically pull apart your run into various sections. We call these splits, and we use typically a tool called Hit Counter Manager. And Hit Counter Manager, I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on the screen and show you kind of what it looks like from a viewer perspective, like if you're streaming on Twitch or if you're looking on YouTube, that kind of thing. Basically, it has a run number at the top. Like in this case, it's run 77. My 76th run was the actual run where I got my Dark Souls 1 no-hit run for the any percent category. Any percent in this case means you play start to finish in the game, and you tackle, how much of the game content you want. Typically, people, whenever they're running the any percent category, they're tackling the minimum amount needed. The other thing about how no-hit runs in this case differ from a speed run is a no-hit run will never be glitched or exploited in any particular way. In fact, there's typically restrictions added on top of that to further prevent people from basically kind of abusing some of the more overpowered weapons and items and that kind of stuff. Typically, whenever you're doing a no-hit run, you will not you'll pick one style of gameplay. So you'll do like a melee build or a pyromancy only build or a sorcerer only build or a bow only build. Melee's a little bit looser criteria because, like in Dark Souls 1 and 2, if I remember correctly, along with 2, you can also use bows to some degree. But in Dark Souls 3, I believe like bows for like a melee only build are banned because bows can be very overpowered in that game, is my understanding. But in this case, like in the thief class, we went ahead and chose the master key just to go along with the other classes. You can pick other items and that kind of stuff, like black fire bombs and stuff that can also be very helpful and speed your run up. But we've got a set of splits here over on the right side of the screen. It lays out each of the bosses. I also have one extra split in there called Saccharine and Lord Vessel. These are my personal splits. You see that D in there next to Bed of Chaos. That was my distance PB prior to getting my no-hit run. That's the furthest I'd made it in the game without getting hits. And then I was so low on hits prior to that, I just made it all the way through the game without getting hit. So let's talk a little bit about those splits over there on the left side or on the right side and talk about what each of the columns means. The first one that says split is pretty self-explanatory. It is what portion of the game you're currently going through. So you've got a highlighted green row, that's the active split, and just above the white row that says Quelaag, the green Asylum Demon. You've got Asylum Demon. You have the now column, which is the current number of hits this run has in this split. The diff column, and then the PB is the difference between the number of hits from your personal best. So if, for example, I were to add in a hit in this route, I need to pull it up. we've now got a hit. You can see that the diff off of the PB has changed to +1, and then the PB once again is set to 0. I could change that. Let's say I set it to 5, for example. There we go. Now the diff is a -4. I'm going to go ahead and make that a little bit bigger so it's a little bit easier to see. Here we go. So that's a little bit easier to see. So, and I believe the star is just like the active split. So here we go. Let's go ahead and pull that back up. I'm going to start playing through the game and talking about what it's like to do this. I'm going to go ahead and undo that route hit, and I'm going to remove this PB thing. So you can also, whenever it comes to hit counter manager, you can also move splits up and down to make it easier to track. So we can move, let's say, Asylum Demon 1 down, or we can move back up, that kind of thing. You can also jump around in it to go to whatever active split you're on. You can add rows, you can delete rows, all sorts of stuff like that. The other thing I'm going to add onto the screen so you can see my how I'm playing it is we're actually going to add in a controller. And it's kind of hard to see. It's in the bottom right-hand corner down here. I'm going to move it a little bit. I moved it up a little bit. So now it's kind of around that, the number of souls. So as we play through this, you'll see that we do a lot of things like running. We run past a lot of enemies. I'm only going to play through this first section and up through the Asylum Demon, just to kind of give you an idea of what a single split might look like. Whenever it comes down to actually talking about the individual sections in the future videos, we're going to discuss very concrete tactics for each of those sections. I'm going to typically break apart the area and the boss for that area into 2 separate videos. So you'll have one focusing solely on the area and then another focusing solely on the boss. We will typically talk about different strategies to tackle each of those areas. And we'll also talk about different ways to handle the bosses. So like we might talk about like a range strat, we might talk about a cheese strat, we might talk about a non-cheese strat. It just depends kind of on what we're talking about and what we're trying to do. We'll talk about things that you can do to make your run easier or things that you can do to make your run harder if you so desire to go that route. There'll be things around like what items do I recommend that you get? What items do I recommend that you not get, that you not waste your time on? What areas can you include? What areas can you avoid entirely? Things like that. I had quite a bit of practice working on this particular no-hit run. It took me about 3.5 months to complete it. And at the end of that 3.5 months, I felt very, very, very excited to have finally gotten my first no-hit run under my belt. And you'll see me do things, kind of odd things like this. I forgot to get the what's it called? The fire bombs. So this area is a tiny bit harder, but it's not too bad. And then we're about to drop down into the Asylum Demon. This is not necessarily the split for Undead Asylum and Asylum Demon, but I just want to show you kind of what it looks like and how smooth a no-hit run, whenever you are well practiced at it, looks like. How kind of effortless it seems to be. So we are about to kill the Asylum Demon, and that has been basically the first split in our Dark Souls run without getting hit. And then we will then I'm gonna break this apart, kind of this particular section and future sections, of course, But that kind of gives you a little bit of a taste of what one section might look like, some of the risks and dangers you might run into. And we will, as those sections evolve, as we go through more and more of the sections and we start tackling different areas, we'll tackle, you know, kind of the important pieces to note, the things to care about, things not to care about, and things like that. But this brings us to the end of like the introductory video. So far, I'm gonna go ahead and skip this cutscene. But so far, we've talked about some tools to use. One of the things I use separate from the hit counter manager is I also use a spreadsheet to track my my no-hit runs. What I will do is in this video, I will include a blank spreadsheet that's already pre-filled, has like an example run in there, and it has like all these rows and columns, and I'll have a video to talk about hit counter manager and also that spreadsheet to show you kind of how to use those in combination with each other to figure out what to practice and what not. Another thing to note is as we play this game, we will be creating save states. So at this point in time, we've just hit Lordran, and we will create, we'll go ahead and quit out of the game and create a save state. So that is saved, and then we would actually use, I've got a flash drive here, and I've got some USB cables that make it easier for me to plug stuff into my PC and my my PlayStation, because I do these runs on the PlayStation. Didn't mean to do that actually. But we'll bounce over here, go to settings, and save the game. We're gonna copy that save for Dark Souls Remastered onto this, and then we just transfer that save over to our computer, so we can pull it out. I'm going to show you kind of the fact that like this save is here. I'm going to go in and delete this file, and then I will reload the save state back onto my PlayStation, just show you how it works. So that being said, it's not too hard to manage your save states on PlayStation 4. I've not tried doing this on Xbox 360, but I know with the PS4 it works. You can see like here we're playing offline. We don't have any saves. So I'll go ahead and put this back in. We'll transfer that save state back over, and you'll see that we can easily reload it. I'll show you some things around save states that I do like on PC to help manage them. So now we're copying it back over to the PlayStation. And if we load it back up, we can see that our save state has been transferred back over. I've done this hundreds of times. If you have like a bad copy to the flash drive from the PC, then sometimes it won't load correctly or it won't show up correctly, things like that. So now you can see that we've got our save game back, and we can just start right here. So that being said, this has been the first video. We've talked about a variety of things. We talked about some tools we use, how to manage some save states. I will cover Hit Counter Manager, the Excel sheets, and save states once again in a separate video. We will also talk about, as I mentioned a handful of times in this video already, we'll have a separate video for each area and a separate video for each boss. So we'll have like a how to no-hit the Undead Asylum and things to watch out for. And then we'll move on to how to no-hit the Asylum Demon. That'd be an example of two separate videos. And we'll go all the way through the entire game. First for a no-hit or a no-hit any % run. And I'll predominantly cover the Thief class. And then once again, we will also go over other tidbits from other classes as well, just to be aware of them. That being said, I thank you for watching this video. Hope you're all having a great day. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. you have any questions, also hit that notification bell. And I look forward to teaching you more about how to no-hit Dark Souls 1 in future videos. Thanks for watching.